Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Pride Perspectives webinar series, a conversation with the community. We've been running these webinars since April 29th. They ran all the way through the summer, and it was an opportunity for us as a school to bring together alumni, past, current, young, old. We brought together administrators to tell the story of Trinity-Pawling in a lot of different ways and from a lot of different perspectives. And it's been an incredible opportunity for Mr. Taylor, who's been on a lot of these webinars, if not all, and me to see so many amazing alums that have come to assist us in these Pride perspectives. And tonight might be the most special of them all. And it's a privilege. It's with pride that we bring this conversation with our alumni veterans on this Veterans Day. And we have many veterans throughout our alumni union. And this is just a small group of fine young gentlemen that serve their country. And as we go through the night, they'll be introducing themselves and telling their story. But as we do with many webinars, if you have a question that comes up throughout the evening, please do not hesitate to put that in the Q&A, on the Q&A button that's on your screen, and we will hopefully get to it. We've got a packed itinerary. And so hopefully we'll get to the questions that come through, but I think we're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions throughout the night. But without further ado, I'm going to pass this off to Headmaster Taylor, who will start the evening. So welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Burlington, and good evening, everybody. It is certainly an honor and a humbling experience for me to be here with this group of alumni and on this very special Veterans Day. So I want to thank them for certainly their time tonight, but really for their service and their leadership and their love of this country. You know, we talk a lot about citizenship, we talk a lot about service, we talk a lot about leadership, but you all have experienced that and made such an impact on your lives, but on the lives of others and the lives of us who have been the beneficiaries of your commitment to those ideals. So, you know, on behalf of the school, I want to thank you. You know, as we've been working through this COVID crisis here, you know, we've been talking about service and leadership in different ways. We've been talking about what we all need to do to protect the health and well-being and the common good of the other, and protecting really the rights of the other, and in this case the right of their health and well-being on this campus. So I can't think of a better way to really underscore that message than from hearing from you all this evening. So thank you again for being a part of this. Thank you for your service, and we're proud of you. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Erik Olstein, President of the Board of Trustees.
Well, thank you, Bill, and greetings to all, and especially those alumni who have served our nation. Happy Veterans Day. It is a privilege to moderate tonight's roundtable with my fellow brothers of Trinity-Pawling and veterans. This distinguished group of Trinity-Pawling alumni, veterans and active duty personnel stretch across 6 decades of Trinity-Pawling's history. They represent the highest ideals and traditions of our school and our nation. Our discussion will focus on Trinity-Pawling's influence on their service throughout their life as they continue to serve their country and their community. In tonight's panelists, we're honored to have Michael Kovner, the class of 58, Kim Foley, the class of 64, Stuart McKnelly, my classmate, class of 86, Jonathan Marden, class of 98, Kevin Emore, class of 99, Ralph Fedele, class of 04, Grant Albertson, class of 04, Alex Feldman, class of 07, Will Fierman, my son Ryan's class of 11, and Keegan West, class of 15. Trinity-Pawling's mission statement is to educate and instill a value system that prepares young men to be contributing members of society amidst the challenges of an ever-changing world, and how true that is today. Values that as students, we learned all too well and were impressed upon us by our school's faculty. And personally, for me, I think of John Owen, a World War II veteran of the Royal Air Force, Miles Hubbard of the US Army, Peyton Pinkerton of the United States Marine Corps, and my headmaster, Philip Smith, a veteran of the US Navy, all led by this example. Now, we do have a full deck tonight, and I'm going to ask the panelists to begin with to give a brief introduction, their entry source, branch of service, what they did or do in the service, and maybe we'll get into how there's some of them are still serving the community after service. So we'll start off, we'll go in order. I'll ask Michael Kovner, class of 58, just if you give us a brief introduction of your service and where you started.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Eric. I was actually drafted at age 25 after graduate school. That's when the draft still existed. And I went to First Basic, signed up for OCS. I knew I couldn't stand it as an enlisted man, and commissioned after OCS in the Corps of Engineers at Fort Belvoir, was sent to Fort Bragg after that, at JFK Special Warfare Center, where I was trained as a propaganda officer for a year before being sent to Vietnam. I was sent there in late '68 and settled at the 25th Infantry Division, the G5, and my job was propaganda and psyops. I had a group of men. We flew every day in helicopters, which terrified me, I must say. I was not the pilot. The pilots were all 19. They were, all warrant officers. Anyway, so that is what I did there. Spent a year, over a year, a little year and a half perhaps. And it was very satisfying in many ways, even though it was a lost war, unfortunately. But I felt great commitment to doing what I did. I was well trained. I was well trained at TP for it. I was well trained by the military. I am sorry that the draft is no more. That's the only thing that I can say. It's, but the Army, Navy, Marines, they need every able body they can get. Anybody should be allowed to join. Anyway, so that is my brief description of me. It was a long time ago, but I'll never forget it. I'll never forget TP.
Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Kim Foley, class of 64.
Thanks, Eric. Good evening, everybody. So pretty much the same path as Michael, with the exception I wasn't drafted, but I joined the Marine Corps through the OCS program and was active duty from 67 to 71. Vietnam for a good part of 69 and 70. I was, in the Marine Corps, one of our groups said earlier, the Marines are all trained to be infantry officers. We did a little of that. I was a convoy commander. I was in the 1st Marine Division up in an area called I Corps, which was the northernmost military control area of Vietnam. And I echo an awful lot about what Michael says. I had some great people to work with, made a lot of friends, see a lot of them still to this day. And it's a bonding experience, not unlike what we have at a boarding school like Trinity-Pawling, where you make friends for life and you come back and see them. We're celebrating in excess of 55 years there, but it's a lot of commonality through it all, and the Corps brought the best of us out of it. Really fabulous. So that's about it for me.
Thank you, Kim. Stu, class of 86, Stu McKnelly.
Good evening, everybody. Lieutenant Colonel Beef McKnelly, United States Marine Corps, retired, spent just shy of 25 years in the Marine Corps. Numerous squadrons, numerous deployments. I was a CH-46 pilot. Actually, the aircraft is so old that the individual who, Kim Foley, a fellow Marine, he probably flew on aircraft that I also flew on. So that is the age of that. I entered the Marine Corps through the PLC program, so different from my academy brothers. I actually had fun in college, and then became a second lieutenant after graduation. Like I said, 90 to 2015, numerous deployments to all the crappy places in the world that they send Marines. But if they called me right now and told me I was deploying to one of those, I would get off this webinar and I'd go right again. TP was the cornerstone of what made me a Marine, and we'll get to share those questions later. And I think that will be a common theme throughout. But Trinity-Pawling and the Marine Corps fit me perfectly to a T. And to be part of two elite organizations is an honor and humbling. To see my classmate Eric, who we got a good story about a bar in Pensacola together, and to see him as the president of the Board of Trustees is nothing but awe-inspiring. To the gentlemen that are on this call, on this panel, Semper Fi, happy Veterans Day, and thank you for what you did, because it made us all better.
Thank you, Stu. And I'm still scared from what you did to me at that bar in Pensacola. Jonathan Marden, class of '98.
Yeah, hey, Jonathan Marden here. I was Navy. I served as a special warfare operator, or a SEAL. I went in as enlisted despite having a college degree and all that, just because, particularly for my career, I think enlisted is a little more of a door kicker. I did 2 tours one to the Middle East and then one to PACOM for North Korea support. And I joined when I was 29. So I think the cutoff is 28. So it was a late career decision. I did about 6.5 years, and I finished as in E5, Petty Officer 2nd class. So cheers.
That's cheers. Well done. Kevin Elmore, class of '99.
Hi, everyone. Happy Veterans Day. Kevin Emore, West Point 03. It's hard to remember now. Served a little over 5 years in the military, had a few deployments. I was an artillery officer, spent some time in Marine units. So I feel some solidarity with my Marine brothers on this call. I won't be too long-winded, so I know we have some questions to get to, but great to be here. Really excited to talk about TP's influence and how it's kind of shaped my military career and a career of service afterwards.
Thank you, Kevin. Ralph Fedele, class 04.
Hello. I also enlisted after getting a college degree. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I served as a machine gunner in the infantry, and did 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan.
And now a faculty member at Trinity-Pawling. So you're definitely in the
Correct.
combat zone again.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Going to do some dorm duty right after this.
And I missed our lunch this year, Ralph. I know Peyton and Pinkerton wish we could have all gotten together. Grant Albertson, class of 04, your classmate.
Good evening, everyone. Grant Albertson. It's interesting to hear everybody's the way that they got in, because I'm seeing a lot of commonality with myself. Didn't have the easiest way into my career. I actually started off with the intent of going the PLC program, like Mr. McKnelly. Ended up going in a college op, which is OCS for the Army. So basic training, OCS, branched as a ordnance officer, and went to Fort Lee for basic officer leader course. Was at Fort Hood for the majority of my career with the 1st Cav in the Air Cavalry as a platoon leader and a battalion S4. Resigned my commission to try and go fly, and actually ended up being a CW2, but that choice was short-lived due to a knee injury in SEER school. So had to get out, but still trying to find ways to serve local community and trying to find ways to inspire people to get into the military. So thank you.
That's a very good story. Thank you, Grant. Alex Feldman, class of 07.
There it is. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Going on the same thing as Jonathan, I enlisted in the Marine Corps at first. I'm at about 8 years of service at this point. Started out as logistics, was hoping to kick indoors, did not do any door kicking whatsoever, but did logistics for a program based in Norway and Kuwait. Once I picked up sergeant, I commissioned in the Marine Corps via an ECP program, which lets people proceed in the commissioning pathway that do have a degree that were prior enlisted. So luckily that checked out. Ended up being an artillery officer, and shout out to Mr. Foley. I'm in the Blue Diamond right now at 11th Marine Regiment, Alpha Battery, 1st Battalion. Started out though as an artillery officer, as a liaison officer with 1-1 in the 1st Marine Division as well. Had a deployment with them. Then I'm now serving as an executive officer, had some battery command time. And then once we got a boss after mine was fired, now back to being an executive officer. And I just want to echo though what Lieutenant Colonel McKnelly said, is that really TP is the cornerstone to my success, if you can call it that, in the Marine Corps. It formed the basis, the foundation, the idea that you proceed in life with a certain degree of structure and discipline. And I certainly learned that at TP.
Well said. Thank you very much, Alex. Will Fierman, class of 11, my son Ryan's class.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Will Fierman, I'm class of 2011. I commissioned in, started 2016, November 2016 out of Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm currently flying the F-18 Super Hornet out of Emore, California. And when I carrier qualified in Meridian, Mississippi, every day I'd walk past Mr. Olstein's name on his student name tag on the board in the sim building. So there's a Trinity-Pawling connection.
Right next to Ali Al-Bader, right? Ali Al-Bader.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. He still calls me. Small world. Thank you, Will. And Keegan West, you had been cutting the cake if you were in the Marine Corps yesterday on this call. Keegan West, 15.
Happy Veterans Day to all the panelists that I'm joined by, anyone that's joining. Yeah, Keegan West, I graduated from West Point in May of 2019, commissioned as an armor officer. I am currently stationed down in Fort Benning, Georgia, where I recently completed officer basic armor leader course, and also some follow-on schools on top of that. But heading out to Fort Riley, Kansas here in the coming weeks to start my first assignment with 2nd Brigade. And like everyone else has said, Trinity-Pawling shaped me in a lot of ways, and I look forward to talking with that more as we go on.
And Keegan, you don't have to be humble here, especially with all these Marines on board. You had a winning season as the quarterback, right, for West Point.
Yeah, not to dive too deep into it. I'm kind of actually on a similar path as current student Brendan Tierney is. He's actually going to play for the same team, the sprint football team at West Point, where the coach happens to be my dad. But yeah, had a lot of success there. And so shout out to Brendan if he's on right now. Looking forward to getting you up to West Point soon.
So just so you know, Kevin, well, not to delay all our time, you and Kevin are also classmates, not only from TP, but from West Point. So, because double alumni.
There you go.
Okay, well, I have some questions. I'd like to get into it, we'll call you in order so we can get a chance for everyone to answer it. And one of the questions that seems to keep coming up is, for a lot of students' lives, was there a particular faculty member to whom you looked up to and perhaps influenced your decision to serve? So, Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot. If a particular faculty member.
I'm ready to jump, and it's an easy one. Maria Reed, 100%. Right? She was easily the person I was closest to throughout the 3 years at TP. What she taught me is do good, right? Do good. And I think that really convinced me to pursue public service. And at that point, in the global war on terror, the only option to pursue public service was to join the Marine Corps. So the logical conclusion was that I can blame Maria Reed for the last 8 years of my life.
Well said. I'm sure she appreciates that, Alex. For those who don't agree, Will, a particular faculty member?
I could write you a list. Yeah, Mrs. Reed. Adam Dinsmore is a captain in the Army. We probably talk on the phone every 2 weeks. He's kind of my military confidant. let's see, Greg Carpinello, I still speak to every couple of weeks. Mr. McDougall probably fostered a lot of my love of this country. He taught AP US history and the American experience, and yeah, I think about him all the time. So yeah, the list goes on. Father Gedrick, all these people.
Wonderful. Grant, you're up. Particular faculty member.
I had made my decision to join from my old high school, which was about 20 miles down the Long Island Sound from 9/11 when it happened. So we had a pretty close view of that, and I'd already had inklings. But Joe Tweed, who was the head lacrosse coach when I was there and the director of college counseling, really was pushing me to go play at the Air Force Academy. And he was the one who was really fostering that desire to serve and wanting to serve. I, in my uninformed youth, decided that going to college for fun was a better opportunity, but it led to the same result no matter what. So he was a big influence, even though he did not get me to go to the Air Force Academy.
Well, for some of us ROTC guys, Grant, going to college was pretty fun. So maybe not such a bad choice.
Yeah, definitely.
Ralph, I'm kind of put you on the spot on that one because some of your faculty members may still be there. So we'll ask them not to hold you singling one out against you.
Sure. Well, definitely Mr. Karate and Mr. Dunham, they taught me, they coached me. Mr. Karate coached me in 2 sports. Just the way they went about being coaches and teachers and fathers. And then also Doug Boomer, who was a Marine officer. And he and I often had conversations about military service. And similar to Grant, 9/11 had a huge impact. My first day at Trinity-Pawling was 9/11. So just the impact of that and realizing that there was things going on in this world other than playing football and wrestling and baseball. And then just how we as a community kind of came together and helped each other and supported each other. So all of that combined definitely had an impact on me serving.
Thank you, Ralph. Very touching on that. Keegan, particular Trinity-Pawling faculty member. I mean, you can't pick your dad at West Point, so you have to pick someone at Trinity-Pawling. Let's narrow it down.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Liked all the answers I've heard. Yeah, so I came to Trinity-Pawling already knowing that I was going to West Point. I came on a postgraduate year as part of AOG's, the Association of Graduates at West Point Civil Prep Program. So yeah, I knew I was going to West Point when I was in high school. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I'm one of 8 members in my family actually to graduate from West Point, so it runs in my blood definitely. But he's on the panel, and I have to highlight him. Just Coach Fedele, Ralph Fedele. I met him early on. As soon as I got there for football season that fall, and just getting to know him and the values that I think were instilled in him in the military and what he stood for. Not to mention just a great guy to hang around, on the field or in the classroom. Was just someone that I definitely related to a lot and knew, that I was going to get the privilege of getting to kind of serve and lead people like that. So he's definitely one for sure.
Thanks, Keegan. I know that means a lot to Ralph to hear that today of all days. So thank you. Well, my second question is, were there lessons learned at TP that you carried forward into your military experience and then maybe even later in life? So I'm going to start up with Kim.
Thanks, Eric. That was a long time ago, recall. I'm having difficulty remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but there sure were lots of things that took place at TP. Just you're on your own. You're learning to take care of yourself, take care of your gear. You're making new friends that'll last a lifetime in many cases. But I do think that all the way through, just the discipline and it was fairly well enforced, but without prejudice, any one group or one person or anything like that. But it was it was a wonderful experience from that standpoint. But you're away from home for the first time, and that in itself can be a chore, getting used to and everything else. But that was certainly part of it.
Thank you for that, Kim. I'm going to go ahead and ask Michael, same question. What were the lessons learned that carried forward into your military career and later in life? Michael Kovner.
Well, one thing I can say is, you know, when I was sent away to TP, I was fairly young. I was 14, probably 13. But you're in a, you know, not a hostile environment, but you're in an environment with, in a dorm environment, you know, with all people your age and young masters. I didn't think they were young then, but, you know, thinking about it. So by the time I got into the military, walking into a dorm was not scary. I'd done it before, you know, 10 years before, 11 years before. I was so used to, you know, I could take care of myself thanks to, I learned how to take care of myself. Learned to be independent. I was terrified of the headmaster. I learned how to get around him. I learned who, you know, and I loved Dave Coughlin. He was the senior prefect when I got there, and I was terrified of him. I mean, he still scares me. It's like, I can't believe I call him by his first name. Anyway, Mr. Olsen, who some of you probably don't remember because he's long gone, was the master there that really influenced me. And many of Mr. Dunbar, these are people that are all long gone. Mr. Carpo, the football coach and the chemistry teacher. It steeled me for people. I was no longer afraid of people. You know, it's a lesson you learn when, you know, growing up, 14, 15, 16, 17. I was fairly young when I went there, and I was fairly young when I graduated. But that's the biggest lesson there. When I, you know, walking into a dorm, walking into a barracks, same thing.
Thank you, Michael. Jonathan, I'm actually curious to hear how TP prepared you for special warfare. So this is going to be really interesting.
It's going to be very similar to what Kim and Michael had to say, which just goes to show you how big of an impact that experience is. Like the biggest lesson learned was basically, like they said, learning to live on your own. Like when you go to TP, you're about 14, 15 years old, like they said, you're independent, you have to make your own bed, you have to take care of your gear, your stuff. I mean, for me, I'm not sure like how it is now, but like I had to learn how to balance a checkbook to order pizza. So it's a lot of adult responsibilities. You know, you're at that age, you're really just learning how to, you know, be an adult on your own. And by the time I got to the military, or even this takes this lesson goes on to college, to military. Like by the time you get to college, you've already been on your own. You're self-sufficient. You're able to socialize with people a lot easier. And then when you get to the military, it's just more of the same. You're just an independent, an adult, you know, who takes responsibility for himself.
Thank you, Jonathan. There is a pattern building here. That's for sure. Kevin, put you on the spot on that one too.
Sure. Much to the chagrin of a lot of the other members of the Long Gray Line, I say pretty openly that I learned more about leadership at TP than I did in 4 years at West Point. And it's because West Point teaches you the math of leadership, you know, how to organize a platoon, how to execute orders, but TP teaches you the art of leadership. So how to lead with compassion, how to lead with authenticity, because, you know, in the military, you have some guardrails that help you lead, you know, whether it's the UCMJ or your platoon sergeant. When you're leading peers, you're kind of on your own. And it takes a lot of creativity to build alignment and consensus where people don't have to listen to you. So, you know, there are so few opportunities to lead mathematically in life. I mean, you know, as a lieutenant, you certainly have some of those opportunities, but most of your life is you have to lead through creativity and finding consensus with people. And you find that at TP kind of in spades because there's so many interactions and you don't have the opportunity to run away from difficult conversations. I think we talked about this on another panel, but that, you know, learning how to lead through art, you know, learning the art of leadership leading through compassion and authenticity has served me much better than, not better, I'm going to say I've frequented that skill set much more as a civilian after I got out of the military.
That's well said, Kevin. My friend Stu McKnelly on the same question.
Kind of two phases here. Getting into the Marine Corps, the phrase that comes to mind is big team, little me. And that's being something and putting something above yourself to the better good of the unit, the team, the school. And then the other one, which Jonathan is very familiar with, is you take care of your gear takes care of you. And that's what I learned when I was at Trinity-Pawling. I learned to be selfless. I learned to look at other people and help other people out and be part of a successful group, vice worrying about an individual accolade. And I took that to the Marine Corps. When I got to the Marine Corps and I got into leadership, the things that really stood out to me was, like Kevin said, the art of leadership, being compassionate, being understanding. You know, when you're put in a command role in the military, you're judge, jury, and executioner. And depending how you deal with it, it really boils down to the success or failure of the individual that you are mentoring or leading. I would share with people that as a commanding officer, there would be days that there'd be a Marine and I would, you know, on an individual basis have to rip their ass because they had, you know, did something that wasn't appropriate. It had compromised the values of the Marine Corps. And then 3 days later, I'd have to have my arm around him because, you know, he got a Dear John letter from his girlfriend, and now it's more of a parent role. There's an individual on this call, and his name's Dave Karate. And after 4 years of being a TP and as my advisor and as my football and wrestling coach and as my, you know, modern European history teacher and my dorm master, that individual taught me what it means to be a leader. And I took those values that he taught me and I used those when I was in a position to shape and mold a young service member, depending on whether it was a good or bad experience.
Thank you, Stu. That's wonderful. The third question, and more specifically from TP, just how the effort system, chapel, dorm life, community dress code, and we've touched on some of the sit-down meals, the traditions of the schools, so to speak. How did that help prepare you for your military service and beyond? And I'm going to put it on Alex to start off.
Yeah, I gotta say, Eric, this is probably the easiest one, right? The structure, like I said when we were introducing ourselves, the structure of life in the school, when it came to going to chapel every morning, sets the baseline, right, that we call a battle rhythm in the Marine Corps, and I'm sure in other services as well. And that is what you do every day to establish the foundation for your success and your growth as either a Marine or a soldier or a sailor or an airman. And beyond that, the effort system, for me, it really, it linked up with how we evaluate ourselves as Marines, and especially our junior Marines, right, where we evaluate both their ability in the technical aspects of their job and their proficiency marks, as well as the conduct, right? So we don't just evaluate Marines on their ability to execute their job, but we evaluate Marines in their ability to be a member of society, be a member of the command, a positive member of the command, a strong leader. So it for me, the effort system translated effortlessly into the Marine Corps, balancing out not just being good at executing, you know, whatever task was given to you, whether it was a certain piece of homework or reading, but also when it translated into your ability to participate in the community as a whole.
Thank you, Alex. Well said. Will, if you need me to repeat the question, let me know, but Will?
Sure. I would say the Navy, naval aviation has a long history of being very proud of some terrible pilots who just kept banging their head against the wall until they made it work. People like Neil Armstrong and John McCain. the effort system at TP means your peers notice when, even if you're not doing well, you're still the last person studying. You're still asking all the questions. You're going to see the teacher for help. And I think that's very true among my peers. Even if people aren't good sticks, you know when they're the last person in the skiff studying, and you know that really matters in a community. Also, I guess we've all gotten pretty used to being men of institution. So, like you all said, it's not a hard adjustment.
No, it's not. Keegan?
Yeah, I think those are both great answers, and they're very similar to probably what I would say. I had never been or seen anything like the effort system. I didn't see it in high school. And probably one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't spend, I only got to spend the 1 year at Trinity-Pawling as a postgrad. That I didn't get to go through that process for all 4 years. But like this, I think that that system translates so much to, especially in my position as an officer, in checking in on my subordinates and ensuring that everyone is put in positions to succeed and provided the resources that they need to succeed. Also, similarly, I've always thought about it. There is somewhat of a chain of command structure at Trinity-Pawling, and as you progress through your years there, you're given leadership opportunities both in athletics and in dorm life, which I think is something that definitely translated for me. I was able to be a dorm proctor and star, and even though it was only my first year, I really took that time to really check in on all the kids, including Hunter Olstein, and to check in on all the kids that were on my floor and to ensure that they were doing their part and doing what they needed to do to succeed, in all phases of Trinity-Pawling. So that system, it's pretty identical in a sense to what the military is in terms of structure, organization, and in developing leaders and checking in, kind of like a buddy system.
And Hunter, certainly appreciate having you as that proctor. I'm sure, I don't know, we need you back though, Keegan, because this room, I shouldn't put this on recording, is not always the cleanest, so we can have you come back here. Ralph, you kind of got it from seeing as a student and a faculty member, but just some of those traditions.
Sure. I think for me, definitely the effort system and, dress code, sit down, there's definitely some of those attention to detail aspects. Something for me that was kind of impactful was, coming from a small town, Dutchess County, New York. Everyone's pretty similar, and coming to a community like Trinity-Pawling that's different cultures, different religions, different languages. You get to see how different people view things, and I did 2 different deployments to Afghanistan, and one was, kind of kinetic, but also more hearts and minds, and dealing with the local people, and really understanding, that people see things differently, and trying to help them with what they need and what they see as important. Had an impact early on in my life, understanding that we all kind of come from different places, and respecting each other. So that was definitely something, being here at Trinity-Pawling, that changed my views on the way I saw things.
Thank you, Ralph. Stu, we had many discussions about this. The traditions of the school, the effort system, community chapel, how that influence?
Like Alex said, pick one or pick any. He and I have walked the same dirt. Love to see the Southern California in the background. Spent 18 of my years flying out there, and doesn't get any better than training at Camp Pendleton. The effort system was big for me. I was a kid who got up there at 15. Back then we called them learning disabilities. I guess kids get anxiety about that now, but I was in a program that was trying to teach me how to, read and write and do those things. And the one thing is that it was all about effort. The grade wasn't really the big thing. It was how hard are you working, and that gives a kid confidence. and so that's a great piece of a great thing to build on when, hey, you may not be getting it, but you're working your butt off, and that's important. So effort was a great thing there. The regiment, the structure, all that was awesome. To be honest, when I got to college, when not having to wear a coat and tie, having girls in my class, playing athletics, it took a few years for me to get back on track. I kind of went off the deep end a little bit, and when I found the Marine Corps, that was all that was needed to get me focused. But like I said to the panelists before we got on there, Trinity-Pawling is the foundation of my success in the Marine Corps. The people that were there and everything about Trinity-Pawling is what allows us to be effective leaders in whatever branch and service we choose to, and whether that is officer enlisted, because there's always somebody in charge and there's always somebody that needs to lead. And the gentlemen on this panel have proven that. So thanks.
Thank you, Stu. On to my next question. Service is not limited to the military. Many of you serve in your communities, various capacities. So as I ask this question, in your opinion, what is it about our school, Trinity-Pawling, that creates this sense of service we're all talking about? And I'll ask Michael Kovner to start off. So what is it, Michael, about Trinity-Pawling that creates this sense of service, do you think? Oh, you're muted there, Mike.
There I am. I mean, there's my voice. Just thinking about, before I got to TP, I came from a country day school in Rye Country Day School. And TP really, if it weren't for TP, God only knows what would have happened to me. It gave me structure. I'd say at first I feared the upperclassmen and the masters, and that turned into respect. And I think that just knowing that structure, when I went in the military, and years later after college, which was very loose, compared to TP, you could do whatever you wanted. I mean, you really could. I lived in a fraternity house, and I was a goody-goody. I studied and I went to class, but you could do whatever you wanted. And by the time I got in the military, the structure was back, and you really had to, before you had to. I liked the idea of it was like being back at boarding school, going to chapel every day, doing things that you were told to do. It was easy because of TP. It made my life easier. I'll tell you that. I really, and even Dave Coughlin, people like that who terrorized me at first, by the time 3 years had gone by, 4 years, by the time I got out, and then in the military 10 years later, I was ready. So that I owe a lot to the school, to my experiences with my, buddies there, people that in my class I'm still friendly with, if they're still around, but I am lifelong friends. I mean, that's 60 some odd years. Erik, you weren't even born.
I was not.
What?
I was not born yet, Michael. No.
I know you weren't. I know the year you were born. Long after I left, long after I was in the military. I think you weren't born till the 70s sometime. Anyway.
I'll let you say that. I'll let you get away. I'll take that, even though it's not true. But thank you.
I don't know. You look like it. You look like my son. So that is my say. I owe a lot, and I'm not kidding when I say that. It seems so simple, but it was a life-affirming experience that I had that helped me truly through till today, and my older age. So I'm very grateful. I really am, as you all know.
Thank you, Michael. Kim, I'll put it towards you. What is it about our school that creates this sense of service, do you think?
I think that Michael hit on an awful lot of it. When Michael and I were there, we are under the rule, if you will, of Matt Dan, and he made his presence known certainly the all 4 years, but just within the class, the leadership of the school, you looked up to the prefects, you looked up to the captains of the athletic teams, you looked up to even the people that were part of the work program under Swede Harrington. I mean, everybody pitched in at some point. And it just is certainly a tradition that endures today, and the effort program and everything else. And it endures in all our lives, in the services that we followed, in the leadership skills that we developed. It certainly was the root of it all. No question about it.
Thank you, Kim. Jonathan, what is it about our school?
Honestly, I would have to say the faculty, to me, is what creates the biggest sense of service for myself. Just seeing how selfless they are and how much they truly care about you and your success, and are willing to dedicate their own time after class. Because to me, what service is truly being selfless.
Well said, Kevin. Jonathan. Kevin?
Well, I thought Jonathan.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I thought Jonathan, I was going to just reference his response. What Jonathan said about the teachers and selfless service is they were an unbelievable example for me as I chose kind of a path of service. But what makes TP unique is something that Stu identified earlier, and it's something that's greater than yourself. And it was the first time that purpose was introduced to me as a person, as a kid in some ways. That the jacket and tie, showing up to chapel, those are all symptoms of that. And as you progress your career, the military uniform is a symptom of something that's bigger than yourself. And so as I transitioned out of the military, it was that need to be a part of something that was bigger than myself became almost like an odd addiction. Like I got lost. I would start to get lost when I didn't have a really clear sense of purpose. So in many ways, it's a gift and a curse what TP shows you and brings you, but I wouldn't really have it any other way, because at a very early age, I was shown the impact that you can have on people through leadership.
Thank you, Kevin. Grant, sense of service.
I think that, not to piggyback on everybody in front of me, but I kind of realized that looking back on TP is only as good as the sum of its parts. It's, everybody pulling in the same direction. And that's something that every single one of us, for better or for worse, experienced in the military. And when we have a unit that's pulling in the same direction, everybody doing their job, it's great. But when you have those people who don't necessarily pull in the same way, there's friction, there's animosity, and so forth. And TP being a closed system, we're not allowed off campus very much unless you're a senior in group 1 or group 2. We're kind of seeing each other every day for long periods of time. And I think that foundation of making something better, not for the sake of your own personal goal, but for everybody's benefit, kind of built that foundation for a lot of us in TP. And it definitely did for me. And I think that kind of translates into what TP's mission is. And that's TP's mission is to turn boys into men of honor and character. And I think that when we all left, a lot of us kind of saw that in terms of, if it's a small community, a family, an organization like the military, we wanted to make it better. And I think that's part of the reason why it set that foundation so early in a lot of us.
Erik, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I'm doing my own breaking my own rules here. The question is words of advice. A lot of this has come through already, but you'd want to share to a TP student, or maybe when you were to yourself when you first entered them, that it's not just about the military, this sense of service you're talking about. Alex, what would you want to share with people?
I guess, right. I so much has already been said. What is really left to be said? It's not always going to be delightful, right? I think I saw a comment in the chat window that, this feels a little kumbaya. It sure does. But the experience at TP overall was immensely productive, and it led to this sense of the value of the institution. I think maybe Kevin mentioned this earlier, that the value, or no, I think it was Will actually, the value of the institution, right? And the folks who are in the institution that enable the institution to continue to be productive and positive. And unfortunately, Headmaster Taylor, I have not had an opportunity to meet you and talk to you, but with Arch Smith, right, he reinforced, and I think the school continues to do so, the value of being a productive and positive member of society. And as miserable as the few moments you may have in the shared misery, there's a lot of value in that, in building the fraternity that I think we all appreciate and really hold dear as graduates of TP. And you'll see the exact same thing in any avenue of public service. But really, I guess I just go and reinforce is that TP taught us the value of being a productive and positive member of society. And that, for me, pursuing public service is the only way to fulfill that.
Thank you, Alex. Will?
Well, I think one of the great lessons I learned at TP was that it's okay to be interested in things. And if there is an intellectual or an academic or an athletic pursuit that you think you need to go after, they kind of just get out of your way and say, go after it. And, you know, we're military men, but we are not one-dimensional. And I think TP has helped me to see that, especially in my peers, to say we gotta make sure that there's more to us than just the task at hand. And yeah, that's helped me a lot.
Thank you for that, Will. Stu?
First, repeat the question because I'm kind of preoccupied on one of the comments on the chat.
Well, okay. Well, if you have to, I guess we could say, turn it personally to you about, you know, when you're talking to your son, who's a PG there, what is about, you tell him about the importance of service, not just military service, you know, coming from your experience at TP.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Michael, he has been, you know, my kid for now 19 years, and you know, big team, little me is how the McKnellys roll. We are a unit. We are a fire team plus one, and that's the way we do things. Michael understands, you know, what needs to be done. He knows what it needs to be done to make the team successful, and he knows that his individual effort, while individual, is all about bringing success to those around him. You know, and I will continue to preach that to him. And he is actually deep in thought about going into the military. So Jonathan, we may be talking to you because living down in Virginia Beach, all his buddies were sons of SEALs. So he wants to go that route. So God bless him for that, and we'll embrace that. I do want to talk about a panelist that brought something up about this being a kumbaya and reflecting on you know, experience. You know, it's 30 years of service, and we thank you for that. I did 25, and I'm going to be really blunt here. There are days and weeks that were really, really crappy, and we all lost friends doing what we did. But guess what? TP built us to be strong men of character, to be able to fight through those times, to rally the troops, and to be together, to honor them for their sacrifice. And so, yeah, this is a kumbaya session because TP is the cornerstone of all these panelists, and the values and the work ethic and the belief in ourselves and in the team were established at Trinity-Pawling. So I won't keep going, but you know, my phrase that I love is embrace the suck. And when it gets miserable, well, guess what? TP men step up to the plate and we do the job that needs to be done. And we all did it when we went into whatever service we did. And I remember my friends that I don't get to see anymore. And it sucked. While I understand what you're saying, TP is the cornerstone of who we are.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Stu. Keegan?
So about, yeah, I think embrace the suck probably definitely fully encompasses everything that we've all been going through with what's been going on the past several months. But no, I would say, you know, in terms of advice for any of the kids at TP thinking about getting into the military or have any interest in it, I would say something important to consider and to continue to do is just build positive relationships. It translates so much into the military, and you have the perfect opportunity to continue to do that in an environment like Trinity-Pawling. I think one thing that TP definitely emphasized that I continue to look back at and be incredibly thankful for is, again, just being able to lean on someone when you need it. You know, in the military, you can't go through it alone. It's impossible. You lean on your brothers and sisters in arms in order to get through the day-to-day operations of the military. And like that, I mean, at Trinity-Pawling, yeah, you know, you're learning how to be independent and prepare for, you know, a college environment, but you can't get through it without leaning on, you know, the people in your dorm, your teachers that stay up way past class hours, obviously, and late at night to help you with homework and things like that. So continuing to build positive relationships is something that I would, again, recommend is something to continue to do if one's looking to go into the military, and definitely something that I've continued to look back at and be thankful for that I got that full experience.
Thanks, Keegan. Grant?
I think that in today's world, service is probably one of the things that's lacking with a lot of people. It used to be a calling, it used to be a badge of honor, and a lot of people in today's society probably kind of takes a, you know, what about me kind of mentality. Not saying, you know, that's wrong or anything like that. In a entrepreneurial sense, that's kind of the thing that you want to have. It's you want to kind of have that drive. But I think that in the military, a lot of the things that you're going to do are going to be selfless. You're going to have to take those days that, you know, as Mr. McKnelly said, you know, embrace the suck as best you can and kind of, you know, bowl through it onto those better days that you're going to have. I had a chapel talk recently, probably last year, right after I actually injured my knee and was forced out of the military. And one of the things that I talked about is that in the military, failure is one of the biggest teaching tools that we have. All of us in basic training or in whatever training school we were in learned more from the failures that we had than any of the successes, because it was an immediate reaction and an immediate chance for us to adjust ourselves. So I think that with TP being the foundation for my higher education and going into the military, I think that that was probably one of the biggest things, is that I came in as a failure, not to parrot my chapel talk, but I came in as a failure to TP from my old high school. And I was able to turn that around and learn from that and walk out, go to college, and then eventually serve. And I can't think of anything better. So.
Thank you for that, Grant. Wish I could have heard that chapel talk. Well, here's one of my final questions. Some of you are very involved with volunteer causes after the military and continue to serve your community. You know, I thought it'd be a great opportunity for some of you to provide the audience some info on these organizations and your passion behind your support. And I'll start off with Kim, because I ran 2 Marine Corps marathons for the Semper Fi Fund. And first one, I thought my wife was trying to kill me when she convinced me to do it. And the second one convinced me that she was trying to kill me for trying to run the second one. But we were honored to run for the Semper Fi Fund. So I'll let you start there, Kim.
Good for you, Eric. Thanks. Well, you know, as those of you that are studying ancient history, veterans were not treated very well in the 60s. The day I was commissioned, Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated. Martin Luther King was killed a few months before. Tet Offensive took place in '68, January. There were 580 soldiers and servicemen killed in Vietnam in 1 week. The point of the story is when we came back, we weren't treated very well. And subsequently, as after 9/11, it got an awful lot of our juices flowing. And I started making, through associations of some of my classmates that were still active in the Marines, visits to Bethesda, then called Bethesda Naval Hospital. Made hundreds of visits over the next few years. And as a result, I got to know some of the volunteers that I saw walking up and down the hall, because the families, the Marines had done an excellent job of taking care of the wounded, but they really hadn't given a whole lot of thought to the families and what they needed when they gave up everything to come back and be with their loved ones suffering from very traumatic injuries. Anyway, as a result of that, I joined the Semper Fi Fund. We take care of the families and the severely wounded for both all services, and including some Vietnam era veterans now. And we've raised over $300 million over the years. We are taking care of a tremendous number of PTSD cases. The suicides are always looming. And there are a number of issues that went through, some of you that have gone through 2 or 3 deployments and suffered untold hardships in subsequent years. So that's what we're doing. It takes a lot of time. General Joe Dunford, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is now our chairman. A tremendous human being and great to work with. And they just don't get any better than some of these people that I've had the pleasure of working with in the Semper Fi Fund. That's it.
Thank you, Kim. Jonathan?
Yeah, for me, I'd have to throw it back to the ones that have really helped out my community, such as the Navy SEAL Foundation, SEAL Future Fund, and the SEAL Family Foundation, as well as Veteran Solutions. Just because these charities basically assist you with a lot of stuff that's, post injuries that the VA doesn't really, might not be able to help you out with, TBIs, deaths, unfortunately, if you have someone that passed away in the family, really helping just all these things that the guys really need when they get out, honestly. PTSD issues, it's a real deal. So I'd have to say those are the ones that really helped me out when I was getting out and transitioning.
I'm glad to hear they were helping you out there, Jonathan. It's a lot of great organizations. Kevin, I know you're involved with these causes too.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. First organization I think of is always the Derek Hines Soldiers Assistance Fund. Derek was a teammate of mine at West Point, a hockey player. He was killed in Afghanistan in '06. So his family started a foundation that helps primarily soldiers in and around New England. So it's a fantastic organization. The second is the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, which is in DC. Little known fact, but caregivers aren't really seen as dependents by the VA. So if you think about catastrophic injuries, TBI, PTS, the caregivers are what really the burden falls on. And the VA just isn't positioned to really provide support there. So they kind of fill that gap. And the last one is the Veterans Program. So what they do is they take catastrophically injured guys from Walter Reed, from Fort Sam, and Jonathan, there's a Navy hospital on the West Coast. The name escapes me, but take guys from their hospital beds and put them on the mountain. And you can see the transformation in how they view their lives and how they are setting new expectations of what their lives can mean. Because there's nothing more sad and depressing when you're sitting next to a guy in a hospital bed and he thinks that his life is now defined in a very different way for him. So the VAL Veterans Program is fantastic. And the last one I'll say is not military related. I just joined the board of the Chef Ann Foundation, which takes public school lunches and turns them into from scratch cooking and educates kids on nutrition. So given the COVID epidemic, the impact there, we see the impact of obesity and health on that type of illness. So those are a couple organizations that I welcome your support to.
Thank you, Kevin, for your good work. Ralph, I would almost argue that Trinity-Pawling is probably the greatest service you're giving back to. So.
Yes, after I graduated college, I came and worked at Trinity-Pawling for a year, and then I still kind of throughout college I had thought about PLC program, and a couple of wrestling injuries made me drop out of that. But I came to TP to teach right out of college, and still felt that need to go into the military. And then as I started to wrap up my time in the Marine Corps, kind of like what Kevin was speaking about, that sense of purpose and community and camaraderie kind of drew me back to being back at Trinity-Pawling and the wonderful people that worked here. And it's been a great place to raise a family and be a part of such a great community. So it's long hours and hard work, but you get to see young boys become men and go on to do some great things. So it's been a very rewarding 7 years.
And I know Ryan enjoyed having you as a coach there, Ralph, for the wrestling team. Michael, after the service, your sense of volunteerism? Oh, I think you muted there, Michael.
I did. The boards, I'm on too many boards right now. That's all I can say. But in the new dining room, the Scully dining room at Scully Building, to those, the quote, I look at that all the time, and I truly believe in that. To those of us who much have been giving, much as expected, and I try my best, with things that a lot of historic preservations. The Greenwich Historical Society, I'm on that board, Nantucket Preservation Trust. And you try to give back. I don't join things that I don't know anything about, even though, nor have I been asked. But I think I spread myself around, and I'm Trinity-Pawling. I hope I'm helping there a little bit. It was so much part of my life, and still is. I mean, memories, are just there. I have much closer ties to my boarding school than I do to college. It was small. It was unique. It was so different from where I came, from the life I had, being home and being spoiled, and really being taught a lot by a lot of people that I became to admire. As Kim was talking about, we both suffered under a headmaster named Matthew Dan, a real tyrant. Anyway, that is all I can say. Right? Okay.
Well, thank you, Michael. And JP, I didn't see any other questions coming across. We're a little bit over. Gentlemen, as we mentioned before, we do possibly have some students watching tonight, or younger people. So usually when people of the service get together, there's usually somewhat of a toast, but we're going to do a modified tradition of a toast and tapping the bars, so to speak, with just a thumbs up. But I did want to propose a toast to those now, to the men and women who stand guard for us tonight in dangerous places, and so to our armed forces.
Agreed.
I want to thank all our panelists for your stories tonight. This has been one of the most uplifting events I've been a part of at TP in a very long time. And boy, I've been feeling somewhat separated from being at school, but I certainly just felt I came home to a bunch of brothers tonight. Your stories were inspiring, your sense of service, your love for the school. I will do my darndest, Bill, to make sure that we can do this again next year. This has just been so uplifting for everyone. And I really do hope we can come together in person. And for our veterans out there who are watching, I hope maybe we can have an event on campus someday and we can all just share the experience for the greater good. So thank you, JP and Regan and everyone. And I'll also end with Go Pride. and hope we all can stay in touch. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for your service. We're proud of you.